Welcome to another exciting episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton Show. Another exciting show and definitely another exciting guest. Let me tell you where we're about to go to today. First of all, let me put this out there. This is a zone-free show. You're not here to judge, but you're here to think. Let's put it like that. You're here to think. And I want you to really listen to today's show without judgment, without fear, but to think of the possibility. Thank you for that download. The possibility. And to understand how you see the world now, and to understand that there are other dimensions and other worlds and other spirits, entities, other life sources out there besides what we see in front of us and recognize as life. So today, we're going to talk a little bit about my experience. And we're also going to talk about one lady's journey into tapping into the spiritual realm or the ancestral plane. Now, I know you guys heard of this when you watched the Black Panther, when his father died and he went to meet and consult. Notice the word I used, consult with his ancestrals on the ancestral plane. Now, he had passed away, but he passed away this part, which is that physical body part. Energy never goes away. Energy is always here. It just rebrands itself into some other space or some other dimension, we might say. But today on the show, we're going to talk about we're going to talk with someone that knows a little bit more about this. And she's going to share her journey and, more importantly, the gift. Let me use that word strongly so you guys can understand what I'm saying here. The gift. And what I mean by that word, people take that word real lightly. We hear it used all the time. Oh, girl, he's got the gift. Oh, she's got the gift. Everybody has a gift. And a lot of times we have a tendency to overlook those gifts. Well, today on the show, we have a young lady who's definitely has a beautiful gift. I am blessed and fortunate to have her come into my life, especially during crucial parts of my life that a lot of times I do reach out to my ancestrals. And a lot of times I'm looking for an answer, but a lot of times the answers come in a whole different way in which we never would have thought about. We're going to go deeper into that too. But let's get right down to today's show. Today's show is a lady who has a beautiful gift, who definitely has an outstanding podcast called Life Beyond the Clouds. Let's welcome to the show the beautiful Renee Schilling to the show. Did I pronounce the last name right? Is it Schilling?
Schilling.
Schilling to the show.
Schilling.
You know, I'm bad with last names. I think it's my vocabulary. Maybe we can talk about that with my ancestrals. Is why I have problems with Renee, welcome to the show.
Perfectly fine.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I was really looking forward to this.
Man, how many times have we retried to do this show? About 3 to 4.
This is 3.
Yeah. From knee surgeries to people not being able to vibrate with what we're about to talk about. But now we got off the ground. The universe does things in this precise time. Before we get started, tell the viewers, Renee, tell the viewers a little bit about who you are.
Well, I started seeing visions when I was 9. I was a very young girl when I started seeing visions of angels. I started seeing things. It happened when my mother was sick. She lived, but she was in the hospital for a very, very long time, and they didn't think that she would make it. And we just didn't have any family around. My father was in the military, so it was just us, right? My mother and father and 2 brothers. And And I went to bed and I can remember just praying for her as a 9-year-old little girl and started seeing visions of angels and them telling me things that would happen. She would sit up tomorrow, she would eat, and she was doing all of those things. And that's like every day I would get a message and it would be what happened. So I just assumed everybody saw this. I assumed everyone did. And for me, it's always been, Andre, about love and light. It's never negative. It's never bad. I always tell people I'm a Christian. I use my faith. When people come to me, you know what I mean? And I'm booked out for a long time. And I'm honest about that. It's always about my faith in God, and people can call it what they want. For me, I know what I see. I know the experiences I've had in my life and how it changes people's lives and it heals them. And when they can connect and understand that there's more and they've lost a loved one and they can move on with their life because of the messages that come through. And what I also is much, and I love the intro that you did, because we're all clairsentient. So we all sense things, feel things, know things. And this is what I also tell people. How many times do we say, I thought that would happen. I knew they would call me. I shouldn't have gone. And that's all your higher self. We all are connected to heaven at all times. We're all receiving messages, but we call it a gut feeling or coincidence. And the more people understand and use the divine, but you know, I mean, the more it helps us in our daily life. But I was a very young girl, and it was never scary. I've never felt or sensed anything negative. It's never been bad for me. You know, it's never been like that for me. It's always given people hope, and it helps people to understand that when you leave this physical earth, you go back to where you came from. We say life after life, but there's life before life. We came from somewhere. We go back there, you know, and I'm Catholic. I've talked to my priest about this. It's not like I'm, you know, out there or this is out in left field. The churches have always believed in these things. They've just kind of, you know, I mean, not discussed it, but they discuss it more. And we're at a time and space in life where people need this. They want this. And I want them to have it in their own life, on their daily life. Like with you, you're intuitive. I can sense when people, everybody's intuitive, but some people acknowledge it more. Let me say that about themselves. They're not as afraid and they want it in their life. Some people just feel, you know what I mean, that people will look at them strange if they say, my angel told me this, or my father in heaven, you know, told me not to go, or my mother said, go do this. And that's really what it happens. You know, that's the way it is. Messages are thoughts that we have that like for me, it's like if you're going to the store, like when I see clients, like a thought for me is like, I have to, you know, let's say I got to go to the store and get this. And, you know, there's are thoughts that I know I'm having, but when clients come, it's thoughts that where I hear names, or I'll just say, you know, I mean, you're just building a house, or you just moved, or, you know, your mother, you know, they're not thoughts from me. So I know that it's for somebody else. All you hear it in your own voice. It's not scary. It's not weird, but you get them every day. And so does every single person that's going to listen to this. And I want them to be more open to understanding, because the more you do, it changes your life in ways that you cannot imagine, in a good way.
And you know what's so funny, Renee, about this whole scenario of the afterlife and communicating with loved ones and lost ones and ancestral passing. People have known about this for years. The churches have known about it. You've even had people like Harry Houdini, who was obsessed with it and tried to contact his mother through channeling, so to speak. But you said something that was pretty profound. At the age of 9, you start seeing what appeared to be, or what in your terminology, let's call it your terminology, you saw angels. How did you know they were angels? Like what kind of experience was that like for you? Was it a beam of light? Was it telepathic? Like what, and why weren't you afraid?
Okay, so because when they come to you, or when I saw them, yes, they were beings of light. I could see them, but I could also see through them. And I would walk through these beautiful gardens with them. They would take me into these beautiful paths where I would walk, but my feet weren't even on the ground. So I was walking, right? And they were just these beams of light that when they come to you, Andre, it's a sense of peace that it goes beyond the veil. It goes beyond what this world is. And when they come to you, you're never afraid. Even when you see your loved ones, when we all have dreams, right? They come to us a lot, and like when we dream, because we quiet the mind down long enough that they can communicate with us. During the day, they're competing with cell phones and computers and people talking and driving, so much noise. Their energy, we're energy, and they're competing with more energy. So that's why, for me, I'm very big on the dream state. I get messages all the time when I'm awake, but my personal messages a lot come to me when I'm dreaming, because I'm dealing with everybody else's, you know, during the day with clients.
So, Renee, when I watched the movie The Shack,
Yes.
and this is one of the parts that I think people have a difficult time trying to grasp their hands around. That the judgment day, that everybody's going to be judged. We call it a review of life. And I had the pleasure of meeting Paul Young, the author of the movie The Shack. And a part of that movie really touched what we're getting ready to talk about, the judgment and the life review. And I think this is what people on this dimension, we have a tendency to have this fear factor that we're going either one or two places. Thank you for the download. You're going to heaven or you're going to hell. And I tell people there's no such thing as hell, but there is a such thing as eternal bliss, which means that we wrote the script to our lives. They're lessons, no matter how ugly they may be. I'll use myself later in the story for what I went through, and I had to learn forgiveness at a very young age for what had happened with me, with my mom, which you know. And that's hard for a child, because I don't really know what forgiveness is, but I had to evolve in it. But let's go back to my question. Let's go back to my question for you. You deal with the beyond the clouds. You see people that come to you that be like, you know, I hope that son of a bitch rots in hell. I hope that thing. But the biggest handicap we have as a person in the shell is we judge people. And in the other realm, that doesn't happen during the life review. Capitulate on that, and even give a story of somebody that came to you with that mindset that you had to convince them, you know what, as bad as you may hate that person, as bad as you might want them to be damned and blah, 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 that's not how the universe actually works.
No, and that's one of the big things. I can remember actually having a lady come to me, and she had lost her mother. And as soon as she sat down, I said, your mother's here. I said, and she wants you to know she's sorry. It was the first thing I said. I usually talk to people for a couple minutes just to let them relax and breathe, because I want them to absorb everything they're getting, because they're nervous and excited. And I just said, your mother wants you to know she's sorry. And I thought she was going to walk out. And her eyes got very big, and she got very almost like angry. I could tell she was getting mad. And she said, I don't want her to be here, and I don't want her to be sorry. She said, because I don't want to forgive her. And I said, do you understand that's exactly why you are here? I said, because do you understand what she experienced? You know what I mean? That she is no longer that person. And I had to really talk her through that for about, I'm going to say a good 25 minutes to explain to her how that her life was difficult, and that what she took on, it wasn't who she is. Do you understand? When we go back to heaven, we go back to being perfect light. You know what I mean? Like I keep saying, this is a role. This is a play. This is where we learn. This is where we grow. We're supposed to help other people. And it's not always easy. It's not. It's hard down here. It's a dense energy. It's not like heaven. You know what I mean? But with all of that, it's amazing. It's such an amazing choice when we choose to come here, when we come, right? We come here to bring our light. But after about 20 minutes, then she understood. And I said, do you understand? She's sorry. And I said, in order for you to grow, you've got to learn to try to forgive her, because it's holding you back, and she doesn't want you to do that, because your hatred for her is keeping you from moving forward, and she's no longer that person. Then I explained to her, you know what I mean? Was there the ring? I said that you have in her box. I said, you do have her ring. And she said, I said, it's in a box in your top drawer, and you took it out right before you came here to look at it, because you honestly did want to know if she was coming. You know what I mean? Even though you didn't want to see her. Then her eyes got very big, and she started to cry. And she said, I have my mother's ring in a box in my top drawer. And I actually did take it out and hold it, and wondered if she would come through. And then at the end, she thanked me. She said, because I feel like I can finally let it go. I can finally start to heal now and to live my life. So it's incredible.
Renee, let me ask you a question. Thank you for that analogy. But let me ask you a question, because I was talking about the movie The Shack, and I love that movie. I tell Paul all the time. I tell Paul all the time, that was such a great movie. It took me a while to register it, but you just capitalize on something that's go back to that part of the movie, because it seemed like the same thing that happened. When his father beat him and did what he did to him, was his father able to move on, or he couldn't move on until his son was able to forgive him? I'm glad you brought that up, because it puzzled me. he released the guy that did that to his daughter. But if you remember the movie, when he saw that light coming at him, and it was his father.
Yes.
Did his father? Let me
you understand?
put it down low. Is there a waiting hold for people who did these things? Do they have to sit there like a waiting room for somebody that they did the drama to let them go to the next to allow their energy to go?
I love this question, and I can actually give you a scenario in my life how I can tell you what was interesting for me. But yes, like God said, in my kingdom, there's many mansions. So the way I look at your life is according to how you live your life. Like, let's say you were like, that movie was an amazing movie. I've seen it many, many times. But when you have really physically intentionally hurt someone and you beat them, you hurt them, you break them down, it's like going to a 5-star, let's say like a 5-star resort hotel, or going to a 1-star. So people that have lived their life, and we're going to all make mistakes. There's nobody that didn't say or hurt or do something here, but the intent is different. So it's like this: if you lived your life and you try to be the best person you can, you know what I mean, and help people when you can, of course, making mistakes in between, you're going to go and be able to travel anywhere and go see anyone in heaven and go visit your family and help them. But if you were someone that was cruel and, you know what I mean, beat someone, or, you know what I mean, just cheated on people and lied and just did things that, you know, you hurt people, then the place that I was shown one time in a visitation in a dream, and it stuck with me. It's where I was there and I was walking down the street and everything looked brown and dead, and the buildings, like no one lived there. There was no life form, you know, nothing really existed. So what happens is you will go in those places, like you will go in these almost like way stations for a while, but the soul does grow. And when you're there, your angels can still come visit you, but you just don't have the ability to go and see everything in all its glory until you spend whatever time God, you know what I mean, thinks that it was enough, or when you're heartily sorry. It always matters what the heart says, or you cry out and ask. So the reason I want to go back to something, how I know this is, this was years and years ago. Like I said, I didn't really know my mother's parents. I had this dream where I was in heaven and I was walking and I could look over to the left and I could see water and Ferris wheel and tents and hear music. And then all of a sudden I'm looking down and I stepped over these ropes with these stakes, and I stepped over it and I could see a big canvas tent. And in visitations, you'll never forget. It can be 40 years. You'll remember it in detail. I looked down and I saw this woman and I could see her shoes, and I saw this beautiful burnt out orange dress. And I saw this most beautiful woman that was 30 years old. And I said, "Grandma, how are you?" And she said, "I'm good." And I said, "What do you do in heaven?" And she said, "You do anything you want to. I go dancing all the time." She said, "Tell Gina I love her. Tell her I love them all." And Gina's my mother. And I said, "How's Grandpa?" She said, "He's good. We're not together here." She said, "He still has a lot of growing to do. I only visit him." Then she said, "Tell Gina I love her. Tell her I love them all." My mother's one of 11. And I just woke up and it was so real. And I called my mother and she said, "Oh my gosh, today was my mother's birthday." And then, you know what I mean? And so what I knew to believe from that was a higher soul can visit a lower soul in heaven, but the low souls cannot go up and have complete freedom, right? Until they have learned lessons. So they're not going to always go to the most beautiful place. It's not like they're going to hell and they've got things grabbing at their legs, but they're going to go to a place, like I said, what I saw, where the trees were brown and things weren't beautiful, as opposed to when I've seen the other visions of heaven and it's beyond what you can even describe. So that's what I feel is, if you've lived your life, you have to learn and understand what you did. It's like a parent with a child, right? You'll say, go to your room for half an hour, or you give them your cell phone, right? So you have to understand what you did. And then once you do, it's like, okay, go ahead and go. And that's the best way I can describe that.
So it's not a purgatory, but but I guess to sum this up, do they still need the forgiveness of the individuals that they did the action upon?
It helps them. It helps them to get out of where they are. So that's what I always say to people: pray for people, even if they hurt you. I still pray for them. I pray for everybody, even in heaven, even though I know they're good, because every prayer is received. So yes, because when you forgive someone that hurts you, it does help that soul in heaven to be able to move forward sooner. It's a big deal.
Why do you think that individuals have a difficult time understanding that there is, now let me rephrase this. Thanks for the download. People have to believe this or they wouldn't go to church. People have to believe that there is a better place, just as so if they believe that there's a hell. But why do you think that people have a hard time believing. If you can believe that, then why can't you believe that you can talk to the ancestrals, your loved ones? In
Again,
other words,
I
why do you
think
think
that
the church has
sometimes,
pretty much almost demonized it, so to speak, by saying that's the devil's playground. You once people are gone, they're gone. You can't talk to them. Why would they want to come back here and talk to you? You probably dealt with this all of your entire life, and it's probably one of the things that your mother and your father and even people like Casey and Nostradamus feared
Mhm.
for being called a heretic and getting burnt on the stake and so forth. So I get this, but why do you think even in today's society where vibrational frequencies are now, people are starting to become a little bit more awakened with
oh, they
their way
are.
of thinking? Why is it still such a low vibration? And why do you think people still think that they cannot talk to their loved ones and their ancestors?
It's interesting because they're really changing a lot about this. There's even a Bishop Barron, I follow him. The Catholic Church, they're changing a lot now, even with their views with this. They're acknowledging, they saying people that have supernatural gifts, as long as you're keeping God first. I think what happened is they didn't want people worshiping trees and, do you understand, worshiping things that I think, like was said to me by the priest, you keep God first in this. Like I always just say, I call myself, even on my spiritual page on my Facebook and Instagram, spiritual messenger, right? And I have all my other links to Life Beyond the Clouds. It's because I'm just the messenger, just like you are. You're a messenger. You're trying to bring hope, even with doing this, right? With you and I connecting. There's no mistakes. We were divinely supposed to meet and have this conversation. And people want to believe, but it's just sometimes there's other religions that want to control, right? Some of
Yeah,
them want to control and they make people afraid of what they don't know. So they'll tell them things that aren't true. It's not like that. When people leave me, they all just say, it's so different than what I thought. I feel such a peace because I just talk to them like you and I are talking. It's
right,
not weird. I don't do anything weird or say weird things. So I just think the churches are, sometimes people are afraid of what they don't know or don't understand.
right. You had the ability, and I'm gonna call it what it is: astro projection
Hmm.
at a young age. I'm trying to learn that to a degree. I'm trying to get used to sleeping on my back, and I can tell I have some of the uh, what do I want to call it? Some of the lift off, but I'm afraid to lift. If you know
Oh,
what I
you
mean?
do. You
Yeah.
do. You're
But
intuitive.
how do you? What was that experience like for you? And did you had to learn it? Were you ever afraid that you had the ability to astral plane and go to the dimension of your ancestors?
For me, no, it's so interesting because people, have asked me that too. It's always been so beautiful that I wanted to share it more than I was never afraid. It's like I wanted everybody to know. Do you understand? I always say to everybody, if you could see the angels and the people that walk beside you, you would never be afraid of anything again, ever in your life. You're so loved and so protected. And it's about me trying to open people up. Andre, when I tell you the messages I get every day from people after they've seen me and just saying I haven't felt this much peace in my entire life. When they leave this room, they're always like, I want to stay. I want to come back because everything's about an energy. And whatever you tell someone, they're going to start to believe, what I mean? If you give negative, people are going to believe it. Listen, I just think we have these gifts because we're supposed to share them. Even people that have had near death experiences. I love that so much. I've watched those things since I can't remember. I was a young child and this is always what, I've always been drawn to. And it's because
Right.
God does give us the gift to come back and to share it with people and say, there is more. Don't give up hope. It's about never giving up hope in your life. When you believe in more, you have hope. People that don't believe don't have hope. And that's what I want to change for people.
We had you mentioned the near death experience. It's funny how the universe works. And first of all, let me say thank you so much for being patient with me through my surgeries, through new equipment that we're trying to work with. And I mean, you've been a beacon of total patience. But to go back to what you were saying, it's funny how the universe worked. When I first started the I Am Beast network and even my podcast, I had no idea of the direction in which it was going to go. And I remember the universe sends us signals, like you said, angels. So I remember this. I told this story to Virginia Drake. Something had me watch something about near death.
Mm-hmm.
And I was watching at home as I was recovering. I come into the studio and I see this thing on YouTube that said Virginia Drake near death. And I watched the whole entire thing. Reached out to her. The day that I got ready to basically unfriend her because she didn't respond, she responded. She said, Andre, something told me to contact you today, something that kept saying beast. Well, the long story short, she came into the studio. She was here for several days. She talked about everything from grounding to the whole 9 yards. But something, let's go back to what you were saying that she told me. She said, you do have a choice. So I asked Virginia Drake this question. I'm going to ask you the same question.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed with everybody that had the near-death experience, they all come, but everything is so clear because of the vibrational frequency. It's not the same as Earth's density. So everything is, this is just my theory. I could be wrong. So, but this was just my theory. I said, everything is so clairvoyant. You can see everything. Everything is there, but we don't see people as you don't see people as you do here in this dimension. You see energy, light, dark light, and all these things and resonate. So it becomes such a beautiful experience. And then you say, I want to go back because you go through the life review. I'm just hypothetically, you go through the life review and you come back. And like you said, you come back to either learn or to empower somebody else or that beast mindset, wherever it might be. And then all of a sudden, when you come through this frequency, this is what I noticed. When people come back, they talk about the people that they've seen, but they really don't know the mission that they came back. But this is one thing they do always say. I just know there's a lot of love. Everything is about love. So my theory on this, I'm getting to my point in a minute here.
No, you're good.
My theory is that the reason that they forget the mission outside of love is because the vibrational frequency is so dense here, they forget everything, but they remember the power of love. But then I asked Virginia Drake this question too. So it's a two-part question. Why does that happen? Then the second part of the question is, I watched the movie Soul. And remember, Jamie Foxx died. He said, I'm not supposed to be here. And he kept going toward the light, to the light, to the light. But he kept seeing the schools. He had to go through the schools and all this, but he didn't believe what was going on. So my question here is, and you said something about it, but we didn't get clarity on this. Do you have to come back? And do you have to go through the light? Or can you just turn around and look at the universe and say, I want to go home?
Okay, so
that's a lot of information for you to decipher. I know.
No, when it comes to, sometimes you get a choice. Sometimes you will have a choice if you want to come back. And some people will say yes immediately. They want to come back. Some people get a choice, some do not. Sometimes it is your time, you know what I mean? And you're there and you don't get a choice. But the people that are still supposed to be here on the physical earth and say they don't want to come back, they will show them glimpses of what's going to happen to the people around them if they don't. Like a husband, a child, you know what I mean? What their life will turn out to be, that how it will affect them in ways that are so profound if they don't come back.
Wow.
So this is what they will do. The angels will still sometimes give you that decision, but if you're still supposed to be here and really be here and you say, I don't want to come back, you're not sending me back, I'm not going back in that body, I love it here, this is home. And that's usually what most people say. But they will just say to you, but you can stay, but you understand this is how this will affect those people in your life. And then they of course they come back because they're here. But, sometimes it's an absolute not. There's just no way, the body can't physically sustain and, it's run its course. If somebody's very sick or like a very bad accident, but there's times where people, they have passed and, and they get the choice. Or sometimes they go there and they don't get to go all the way through. A lot of times people will want to go all the way through. A loved one will meet them, a grandmother, grandfather, a parent, but they'll want to go through the gate. They'll want to go through, and then they can't even go any farther because once they cross that threshold, they can't come back. So their relatives will say to them, you can't go any farther, and they'll see the beauty and they'll want to go, but they won't let them pass through because there is that threshold that, do you understand? Once you pass through it, you cannot come back. You know what I mean? So your guides and your loved ones will guide you and say, listen, you know what I mean? I'm here with you. We love you. We're always here. You know what I mean? And they just always will say how brutally painful it is to go back into the body. It's like a baby being born, why they cry, because it's a painful experience to have to come from that place and get shoved back into that, you know what I mean? into something that's cold and damp, when you're over there and you're free and you can see the entire universe all at once. But sometimes you get the decision and sometimes it's an absolute, you cannot stay.
You mentioned something that I find very interesting. And I just heard about this the other day.
Mhm.
And let's talk about the time portals. What you said, if you don't come back, then this effect can change the timeline. Now I
Yes.
heard something that was really crazy. They said the assassination of John F. Kennedy did not take place in 1963. It took place in 1968. But because it was it the way that it played out was so catastrophic that it changed the timeline, that they had to go back and redo something with the timeline. A lot of people would think that's crazy to even think about. But remember what I said earlier. Hollywood tells you everything that's going on, no matter how crazy things may turn out. But the effects was that what they said was he died in 1968, but the timeline got messed up. They had to turn it back to 1963, which put in another change of events, such as the Martin Luther King and all the other categories. What's your take on that? Because this is the first time I heard somebody outside of what I heard say something like that. That you not coming back could change the future, and then you staying can also change the future. What's your take on that?
Well, the one thing I can speak to, but that other, I have never heard that. And I'm going to be honest, I would not know how, I would not know how to answer that in an honest way where I would feel like it would be any. I've never heard that. So I wouldn't be familiar with that. I'm not saying that those things
Right,
aren't possible because time really doesn't exist except in our minds.
right.
Time never stops. It keeps going. When you sleep, it keeps going. I think time is one of the most amazing things when we do talk about time. So I like, hearing about this. I'm probably gonna be one of those. I have to research everything. Like I'll be, Googling that later because I think it's fascinating because that's how I am when it comes to this. But you think about time and it doesn't exist. It keeps going. No matter what you do, it heals us. It shows us everything. I mean, time is in heaven. It doesn't exist, but we live our life based on it here. Everything we do is based on time, how much time we spend.
Yeah,
So I think it's fascinating. It's something,
yeah.
I'll have to get back with you on that and I'll have to reach out to you, but I'm going to, look into that. But I think, listen, I'm not going to discredit anything. If
Renee,
someone knows something, I am not going to give
yeah.
an opinion or discredit it.
Renee, you know how that, like we talked about the universe, and
Mhm.
it was funny. My nephew Tristan was watching. We're big Marvel fans, so he was like, "Uncle," he said, "Have you ever watched Loki?" Well, Loki's not one of my favorite superheroes, so I'm not gonna really gravitate to watching Loki. He's a misfit, a miss of God, always throwing pranks and all that. So something
Uh-huh.
told me. It's funny when you talked about the angels.
Yeah.
Something said, "Sit down and watch this." It was mind boggling. It was like a Rubik's Cube. It went from the timelines to, like you just talked about, there is no time because he died. And they showed his
Mhm.
whole life review. It was the most scariest thing, but it also showed what would happen in different dimensions. And then it led to the other movie, um, the quantum world.
Mhm.
And I was like, man, this is crazy how I'm seeing all of these things. But to go back to what you were saying, it's almost like the ancestrals are. We're living in a world. Let me thank you for that. We're living in a world now where people are becoming so much enlightened with what's going on. How much of the ancestors and the passing of our loved ones is affecting this and opening up our minds to think on a bigger scale?
Well, I really believe what I'm seeing and what I know to be true is that I think the veil is being lifted more than it ever has been on the physical earth, that people are communicating more with their loved ones on a daily basis and they just don't realize it, that they're showing us more. We're all receiving downloads from heaven. I would say we're always getting memos from the head office all day long. We're like a computer. We're getting downloads. They're telling us to go here, look, and do this. all day long. We're being shown and we're becoming more intuitive because we need it right now more than ever, right? Because the world's so chaotic. We're so caught up, in cell phones and not getting off social media that we have forgotten who we are. So they're going through it and helping all of us. And I really I love talking about this and helping people so much. And like this conversation with you, you're very enlightened. And the reason these things are finding you, as I'm listening to you saying, all of a sudden I found this and this came, it's because you're very open right now. You're very open. The divine universe knows this. Your loved ones are helping you. Your mother's helping you. And you understand they're showing you these downloads because you're asking for it. You have to look at your energy like this. If you call someone, they pick up the phone and they answer, right? That's what we want. Well, it's the same thing when you're talking to your loved ones or asking, you're sending the universe, saying to the universe, I want your help. Help me with this. Show me what to do. And they're responding. So what you're putting out, it's like standing in front of a wall. I had a dream a couple of weeks ago that I was my angels were showing me standing in front of a brick wall, and I kept throwing the ball and it kept coming back, and they just kept saying, what you put out, you get back. So whatever it is you're putting out, whether it's good or bad, you're getting it back, and you're putting out that they know that you're open to this, that you're intuitive. That's why even speaking with the man that, wrote The Shack. And I also love the movie Heaven is for Real. If you've ever seen that one, it's incredible with Greg Kinnear. It's based on a real book that I read years ago, true story. It's just incredible how it's such a beautiful thing. If people would understand, why would you not want help from heaven? We have an invisible football team. Why would you not want to get help? If you have it, God gave us all a divine spiritual team for a reason, because he knew we would need it down here. Why would you not want their help? That's always my question to people. When they say, how do you believe? How do you not believe? Yeah.
Thank you so much for being patient.
I look forward to doing this again with you. I do. I look forward.
Yeah. I would love to be on your podcast. Do you talk to people about because I didn't get deep, because I could have told you when my mom died, she came to me numerous times and I was afraid. I would see her come through the window, but I couldn't see her face. I would just see
I'll have you. I'll get something set up. I'd love to have you on there, because when I do that, I actually give people the session. When they come on, it's usually me giving them, a reading on the podcast. I usually do a half an hour and give them a reading. Yeah. And people listen, Andre, there's so much stuff I didn't even get into, I don't want to wig people out, but I've had so many miracles happen in my life that I've had to talk to my priest. I've had angels come to me.
Sometimes you have to wig people out. I'm dealing with a client, not a client.
I'm just telling you, you know what I mean?
I was dealing with a guest that was on the show. She's been texting me today. She's like, she is so infatuated with this guy that keeps draining her energy. She's afraid to go outside. She's suicidal. I'm like, look, I can send you messages all day long. You're going to have to take responsibility and realize that everybody can't be, it's not your job to save everybody. Some people don't want to be saved.
And that's the truth. And that's what I have to, even with this and Andre, honestly, like things with me, the miracles that I've had, that I've experienced, things that are just, it blows my mind. Having angels come to me and tell me there's someone that needs to be healed, and they'll let me know. And sitting up and I'm praying, saying the Hail Mary, my hands were so hot, and I'll just sit up and then talk to my mother the next day. And she's telling me my friend across the street, they think she has leukemia, and don't say anything to her, and I'm thinking, oh my God, is this what they're telling me? I'm supposed to, and I get down there and she walks over and she's crying. And Andre, I remember it like it was yesterday. And she was crying and saying they think she has lymphoma and she can't be taken from her daughter. And I'm putting my hands on it. And I'm saying, where is it? She didn't know. And I'm saying, God, heal her. If this is what you meant, if this is what you were telling me to do. And I said, let me know how the biopsy goes, Andre. I'd pray for her every single night. And then the night before she called me, I said, let me know how the biopsy goes. And the night before she called me, little angels came to me like little kids, and they said, stop worrying about her. It's only a virus. She's healed. It's gone. She called me the next day and said, Renee, when she went in to go get the biopsy, they couldn't believe it. They said, it's only a virus. It's gone. They've never seen anything like it. They don't know what happened. I've had these experiences my entire life.
Why do you think people are afraid? This is a good question for you. Why do you think everybody wants to go to heaven, but everybody's afraid to die?
Because they have to be held accountable. If they know there's something more, they want to have, a lot of people want to do what they want this lifetime and don't want to be held accountable. So if they believe that there's something more, they're going to be, then they can't do what they want while they're down here. And that's what I believe a lot of it is.
Well, don't you think that if people
they want to live the way they want to live, and if they think there's something more,
But don't you think if people are so, this is what I told a client of mine. I said, a friend of mine, I said, you're fast with your religious belief. I asked everybody that was on these religious belief things. I said, if I was to put a gun in front of you right now and shoot you, would you be willing to die? They said no. I said, but you all believe you're going to go to somewhere better, and you believe what you believe. Why are you afraid to die then? Kind of crazy, huh?
Mhm.
So does your
Yeah,
belief
yeah, it is.
trump?
And that's why, honestly, I think you and I could talk.
Yeah, like I
Mhm.
ask people, I'm like, I'm not against
You
religion
don't want
by
to
any.
leave the people that are here. I think,
Go ahead, go ahead.
yeah, I just think that people, it's not they, sometimes it's just they don't want to leave. They love the people here. Like they love their life here and they love the people here and they don't want to leave them. Right. But when people are sick, when they leave the physical earth, they're already seeing heaven. I've been in the room with many people and they're already seeing the veils lifted with my father. My father was seeing his father standing next to me and, talking to him, seeing right through me as if I wasn't there. So, I mean, that's a gift when you get to see that, when you get to experience that. People are afraid. A lot of people are afraid. They don't know. Maybe they didn't live a good enough life. All of a sudden they're trying to play catch up. Fear is like the fear itself. And that's why I want to change. I'm not trying to change people. I don't want to say it like that. I'm trying to open people up or give them another way. Look, I have so many people that religious people or certain religions, and they'll put little devil horns and say, stay away from people like this. And I think, oh my God, they don't realize how much that hurts. And I think, have you ever sat with a mother that just lost her child and gave her messages and she doesn't want to kill herself anymore because of the messages you gave? Don't judge me. You're the ones that judge. That's what really bothers me is when people judge, because I'm thinking you've never been in a room with me and seen the people leave and want to live again because of the message that they received. You ask me, I always say, is that bad? Is that a bad thing?
Mm.
I don't like it. I don't judge other people's religions and I don't want them to judge me. And judging is a bad thing. It's a bad thing. It
Have
is.
you ever had moments where
But I
somebody?
enjoyed this so much and I don't think our journey's over. I know we're going to be speaking again.
I'm gonna ask you one more question too before I let you go. Have you ever been in a situation to where someone had that belief and judged you and everything under the sun, then they reached out to you to, they retract what they thought that they said?
Yes. 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 I had a lady do that and she'd lost her son. And when I gave her the messages from her son, she could not believe it or deny it anymore. Yes. And
How
she
did it change her?
apologized.
Did it
Yes.
change her in any way?
Mhm. Yep.
It,
I'm not here to convince the whole world, right? Your belief, but my gosh, I'm here, what I mean, to want to help heal people's hearts and to give them more and to let them know that there's more. And once you know it, you can't unknow it. Once you see it and have experienced, you can't unexperience it. People want more. It's very
mm.
healing. It is very healing. I have psychiatrists come to me a lot and they always say, Renee, I heal the mind, but you heal the soul. I can't do what you do. I can't reach people in that way.
Why would a psychiatrist come to you?
So
That's
it's
interesting.
I mean, it's I have a lot of people come to me. A lot. A lot.
So Renee, what
Yes.
have been some of the most difficult parts of your journey with trying to elevate people's way of thinking on trying to contact their ancestors or their loved ones? What has been three difficult parts of this journey for you?
I think what I always say to people when they ask me how to communicate or to reach out, if they message me a week later and say, I tried and it didn't work, I always just say, with anything, you have to be patient. We're on divine time, not ours. So the biggest thing is telling people to be patient when they want to start going on this journey and they want to, start being more connected, is you have to give it time and you have to trust. You have to be open to the messages and pay attention. It's not going to be, do you understand? They're going to be subtle sometimes. So you have to, it's teaching them to be patient and not to give up and understand the messages do come. And I think for me also too is understanding I can't reach everybody all the time. When I get 20 messages a day, when people are in need, that I want to be able to get to everyone. And I have to understand that I can't get to everybody right away. And
Mhm.
that's one of the hardest things for me, is because I want to help everybody. and that I have to understand that I need to take more time a little bit.
Right.
That's probably one of my biggest struggles,
Mhm.
and I think just for me, it's just understanding that it's not for me to convince people. You know what I mean? It's to
Right.
help them to understand on their own life and understand they don't need people like me all the time. Sounds crazy to say that, but I want people to understand who they are and to start asking for themselves.
Before we wrap up, you share a lot of stuff with me, and I always tell people I like to bring myself into the person's journey because we
Hmm.
all connected some kind of way, vibrational. We come from a creator. We all know each other to some degree. You share with me
Yes.
things from my mother and my journey here that was really profound. A little bit about the story. My mom was murdered by her uh, husband at the time. I grew up without her. I That was a very difficult loss for me. That was my best friend. I dealt with
Yeah.
a lot of remorse behind that. But when you came into my life, you shared a lot of things that I thought was really, really kind of crazy because you mentioned that some of my guardian angels one happened to be my grandfather. And I was like, I remember telling you this precise. I said, there's no fucking
Hmm.
way. Because neither one of my grandfathers ever were close to me, as a kid. You know what I mean? And you was like, Andre, that
Hmm.
may be true now, but in a different realm, you guys were like
Yep.
best friends, and I couldn't grasp that. I could grasp a lot of things that you shared with me about my mother and what you just shared with me that I should do. I think, is it a documentary or something like
Screenplay.
that? Tell me some of the things
Yes.
so people can
I see you
I
doing
don't
that.
mind being open. Share with the viewer some of the things that you got from the downloads from my ancestors to give to me before we wrap up.
Well, that's what I just kept. I just feel like your mother wants you to do this because it's so, but you still want to honor her. And she knows how much you miss her. And that when you're going to do this screenplay and this writing, that is to honor her. She kept saying that how much she loves you. Because I kept seeing you being a 9 or 10-year-old boy when this happened, that it was
Mhm.
such an influential time in your life. And that you writing this is about you still honoring her and keeping her memory alive because it's so important for you that she's never forgotten. And this is what she keeps saying is how proud she is. And she's the one that's actually guiding you to put pen to paper. And she's bringing the people into your life that are going to help you to do this. She just keeps saying like she's, the one that is still guiding you to do this. And this was very important for me to pass on to you. And I just know that you were very shocked because you said nobody knew this. Nobody knew, that you were going to do this. And it's their way of just always saying, I'm the one that's helping you. I'm guiding you. They never leave us, not like that. Yes, in the physical, but not in the spiritual. And she just loves how much that you still love and that you still honor her. And that's why I just feel this is going to be something that's going to be a big deal. And I keep seeing like boxing with you or something with boxing. I don't know if there was anything with you with boxing or kickboxing or some sort of, like this, but she just shows me this, that do you understand, like athletics was really your first love, that you really wanted to be, be an athlete, like you were an athlete, and this was your biggest, greatest love.
Yeah.
But now how the divine took you in a different direction. And really, this is what you're supposed to be doing, is reaching people like this, that you're saving a lot of lives and changing a lot of lives, but what you're doing, that you're still in the beginning journey, that where you're at now is not where you're going to be. And that's what she
Wow.
keeps saying.
Wow, I appreciate that. Renee, before we leave, like I said before, thank you for taking time and being patient with me and through my surgeries. And I feel your energy every time we talk. I look forward to talking to you. How can the viewers reach out to you and follow you on your social media and know more about your podcast, Life Beyond the Clouds?
Well, yes. Well, I'm on YouTube. That's Life Beyond the Clouds on YouTube, and I'm on TikTok. And I'm also have a Facebook page, spiritualmessenger.com, and on TikTok it's spiritualmessenger.com, and it's also connected. You'll see the Life Beyond the Clouds. You know what I mean? And I'm on Instagram, same thing. I'm on every social network, so people can reach out. And I do daily podcasts where I just try to enlighten people every day. I ask the angels, what you want me to say every morning, and I just do short little messages to try to help heal people and to give them, be positive and know that they're not alone on this daily struggle, that there's so much more guiding them. than what they see. So this is just my journey also, where I want people to be healed and know that there's more. Don't overlook it. Don't discredit it. Don't look at it a gut feeling of coincidence. There's no accidents. There's no coincidence. It's always a divine that loves us, I always say, more than we can love ourselves. And I thank you so much, honestly, for having me on. This has been amazing. I don't get to talk about myself. I'm usually, giving other people information. So this was really, I feel very honored, and I thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Guys, make sure you reach out to Renee, follow the podcast, Life Beyond the Clouds, and understand that, like I said, this is a judge-free zone. And I tell people, I leave them with this message too. Try to think beyond. Try to think beyond. Because if somebody passes in your family or a loved one, let's get real. The first thing you're going to ask somebody in your mind, you're going to ask yourself, are they okay? And you always tell yourself what? Mm-hmm. They're in a better place. Then you're telling yourself that if you're telling yourself they're in a better place, then you can talk to them. Not the way in which me and Renee are talking, but you can think, oh, it travels into the universe and sends out vibrations. So make sure you follow Renee. Mm-hmm. Renee, thank you so much for taking time to be on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, like I said, this has been another exciting episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton Show.